Two USF students murdered. An accused killer locked up as friends and family members ask prosecutors for justice.
He is not a human being. He is an animal. He is an animal, and definitely I want justice. I'm passing a horrible time. It's the first time it's happened with my whole family and relatives. We never faced this situation.
Hence, we want to know what happens with our friend's case. We feel ourselves responsible that we should be very closely integrated.
It's not acceptable, and something that we are shocked that the place that is our safe place, our home, our own rooms, our own kitchens, they were murdered.
This is just a compounded tragedy with the deaths of two USF students, and so we stand with their families in Bangladesh.
He searched for how to dispose of a human body the night before he killed two people. Not once, in a pattern, over multiple days, using an AI chatbot that flagged his questions as dangerous, and he typed right through every warning. That detail is confirmed. It is in the court documents. And it is only the beginning of what investigators found when they started pulling this case apart. Here is what nobody is fully connecting yet.
We then examined his phone. His entire history had been wiped clean. No text messages, no emails, no GPS data. His search history totally cleared. So it takes us a little bit of time at that point because we have to do a forensic deep dive onto the phone. And what we found by doing a forensic deep dive is where we found a lot of disturbing searches. He searches for, can a knife penetrate a skull? Can a neighbor hear a gunshot? Can you bury a body in a trash bag and throw it in a dumpster?
The searches did not start the night of the murders. They started days earlier, building, escalating, getting more specific, while Zamil Limon was still alive down the hall, while Nahida Bristy was still showing up to campus, still calling her family in Bangladesh, still moving through the ordinary structure of a life she had worked enormously hard to build. Both of them were 27. Both doctoral students at the University of South Florida, both thousands of miles from home, both dead within a single night. And the man charged with killing them both, their roommate, Hisham Abu Gharbiyeh, was arrested while standing in a towel after a SWAT team responded to a domestic violence call at a family member's home. When detectives questioned him about Zamil and Nahida, he looked at them and said he had no idea where either of them were. He had cuts on his hands, said he got them slicing onions, could not remember what he was cooking. Here is why this case matters beyond the crime itself. Florida's Attorney General has now opened a formal criminal investigation into OpenAI, the company that makes ChatGPT, specifically because of the searches Abu Gharbiyeh allegedly made on that platform in the days leading up to these murders. The AI flagged his questions. It responded with warnings, and none of it stopped what happened next. That question, what responsibility a technology company carries when its system identifies language like this and the safeguards do not work, that question does not have an answer yet. And it is one that reaches far beyond an apartment in Tampa, Florida. This video is going to walk through everything: the timeline, the purchases, the searches, the evidence inside that apartment, what happened to Zamil and Nahida, what their families are saying now, and what this case still has not answered, even with 23 pages of documented evidence pointing in one direction. Because sitting underneath all of it, after every piece of that evidence is laid out, is one gap that prosecutors have not filled. No motive. Not one confirmed reason why. That is where we begin. Zamil Limon had spent 2 years on a single project. His doctoral research at USF focused on artificial intelligence systems designed to track shrinking wetlands. Detailed, patient, long-range work that does not announce itself loudly. The kind of research that builds quietly across months and years towards something worth presenting. His thesis presentation was scheduled for the week he disappeared. He was days away from finishing what he had spent 2 years building. People at that stage of a doctoral program do not walk away without a word. They do not go silent without closing loops, without telling someone, without showing up to the thing they have been working toward. Zamil had every reason to be present that week. Nobody around him has been able to explain why he was not. Nahida Bristy was also 27, also a doctoral student at USF, focused on chemical engineering. Her family in Bangladesh described someone whose life ran on consistency. She called home regularly, not occasionally, not when she remembered, but on a reliable schedule that her family could count on. When the calls stopped, they did not need to wait long to know something had broken. The silence itself was the signal. Both of them had come from Bangladesh. Both had left behind everything familiar: family, language, the physical landscape of home, in exchange for the possibility of building something new in this country. What they had in Tampa was a small circle: school, research, a narrow support structure made up of people they had chosen carefully because the distance from home made every connection count. Zamil's brother later stated publicly that Zamil had complained about his roommate's behavior before April 16th. That detail did not surface immediately. It surfaced after.
He always informed us that his roommate is kind of unsocial, unpleasant, and sort of psychopathic behavior. Very unfortunate or unbelievable that Avalon Heights didn't consider it seriously or took necessary steps.
On April 16th, 2026, both Zamil and Nahida disappeared. Same day. No warning. No planned departure that anyone around them was aware of. No message to the people who would notice immediately when the pattern broke. Just absence, and the kind of silence that does not feel like distance. At first, there is no scene to process. No broken door, no visible sign of struggle. No immediate evidence that anything violent has taken place inside the apartment on Maple Drive in Tampa, where Zamil Limon lived with his roommate of 2 months. Just missed calls, stretching from hours into a full day. A mutual friend who keeps trying, keeps getting nothing, and by April 17th makes the decision to report both of them missing. At the same time, the families in Bangladesh are already past the point of waiting. Nahida's call did not come. Zamil had gone quiet. Neither of those things was normal. Neither family needed to be told that the silence meant something was wrong. Law enforcement begins with what they have: 2 missing persons, no immediate crime scene, no witness account of what happened or where. Then something changes the direction of the search. Not at the apartment, not on campus. Personal belongings turn up in a trash compactor. A wallet, glasses, a student ID, a phone case, clothing stained in a way that removes any remaining possibility that this is a missing persons case in the ordinary sense. Investigators are now looking for a crime scene, not 2 missing students. And the question they are asking is specific. Who had the kind of close, sustained domestic access that would make it possible to move these belongings, remove these traces, and still be present in the ordinary landscape of daily life the morning after? The answer is already inside the apartment. The timeline does not begin on April 16th. It begins 10 days earlier. April 7th. A purchase on Amazon. Duct tape. April 11th. More items. Charcoal, fire starter, trash bags. April 15th. The day before Zamil and Nahida disappear. Abu Gharbia opens ChatGPT. He types, "Can a VIN number on a car be changed?" Then, "Can you keep a gun at home without a license?" He closes the app. That same night, after midnight, he opens it again. What happens if a human is put in a black garbage bag and thrown in a dumpster? The AI flags it as dangerous. He reads the response. Types again. How would they find out? Zamil is alive down the hall when he sends that. April 16th. The day both victims disappear. Surveillance footage from USF's campus shows Nahida walking on university grounds around midday. She does not show up that evening to meet a friend who is bringing her eyeglasses. She does not answer calls. Zamil's phone location places him near his home and campus before his signal moves toward Clearwater, roughly 32 miles from his apartment, around 7:43 p.m. Abu Harbia's white Hyundai Genesis G80 is tracked moving in the same area within approximately 10 minutes of that. Just before 11 p.m., a DoorDash delivery arrives at the apartment. Trash bags, Lysol wipes, Febreze, body wash, cleaning supplies. Delivered hours before either victim is formally reported missing. April 17th, 12:26 a.m. A search query. Are cars checked at Hillsborough River State Park? That is not a general curiosity question. That is someone asking whether a specific location will involve vehicle inspection. 1:30 a.m. A phone device pings near the Howard Franklin Bridge, the same location where Zamil Limon's remains will be recovered days later. Purchase, search, delivery, movement, location. Each step leaving a digital trace that does not shift, does not adjust, and does not respond to new explanations. The data holds. When investigators bring the location data to Abu Harbia, his first response is denial. Clean and simple. The victims were never in his car. He does not know where they went. Short answers, controlled composure. Then investigators put the coordinates on the table. Specific times, specific locations. Movements that do not match what he said. His story changes. Now he says he did drive them, took them toward Clearwater, dropped them off somewhere. No specific location. No explanation for why the trip happened. No confirmation that either of them got out of the vehicle and was seen by anyone afterward. No proof they were ever seen alive again after getting into his car. That shift, from clean denial to a partial account with no verifiable endpoint, is the moment the case changes weight. Investigators return to the apartment for a full forensic search. Inside Abu Harbia's room, on the floor, they find two distinct stain patterns. Shaped, defined. Each one consistent with the outline of a human body. Blood evidence. Not scattered, not random. Two human-sized shapes on the floor of a bedroom in a student apartment in Tampa, Florida. Court documents note that trash bags similar to those used to dispose of Zamil's remains were found under Abu Harbia's bed. On April 22, 2026, Hisham Saleh Abu Harbia is arrested. He is charged with 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder with a weapon. Additional charges include unlawfully moving a dead body, failure to report a death with intent to conceal, tampering with physical evidence, false imprisonment, and battery.
Everybody internally is obviously very concerned, as we are concerned. It's not typical of their behavior. They're graduate students.
4 words beyond confirmation of representation. We remain focused on representing our client through the legal process. When detectives asked Abu Harbieh about the lacerations on his body, cuts investigators noticed during questioning, he said he got them in the kitchen, slicing onions. When asked what he was cooking, there was a pause. Then uncertainty. No specific meal. No detail that held steady under a follow-up question. Just a pause where an answer should have been. The digital record does not stop at the searches made before April 16th. It continues after. Following the disappearance of Zamil and Nahida, additional searches appear in the data attributed to Abu Harbieh. Will neighbors hear my gun? Has anyone survived a sniper shot to the head? Short questions. Direct. No emotional language. Typed as if the thinking behind them is completely ordinary. That detail shifts the shape of what prosecutors are building, because it means the documented mental activity did not end when the incident ended. It continued in the days that followed, which raises questions about what was still being processed or planned after both victims were already gone. Then additional context surfaces from prior records and family accounts. A protective order had been issued before these events. Family members had described erratic behavior in prior filings. Statements existed referencing claims that Abu Harbieh believed he was sent by God. None of that establishes motive on its own. Prosecutors have not publicly confirmed a single clear reason that connects Abu Harbieh to Zamil and Nahida in a way that explains the origin of what happened. No confirmed conflict. No established grievance, no financial entanglement that has been made public. Zamil's brother stated that Zamil had complained about his roommate's behavior before the murders. The word he used publicly was specific. He described Abu Harbieh's behavior as psychopathic. That is a family member's characterization, not a clinical determination. But it is on the record. And it raises a question that sits alongside everything else in this case. People around Abu Harbieh had observations. Some of those observations were reported. The off-campus housing company received complaints from the families about Abu Harbieh before April 16th. According to those families, nothing was done with them. What the 23-page evidence filing maps with precision is the how. The purchases, the searches, the location data, the blood on the floor, the body on the bridge. What it does not contain is the why. No confirmed motive, not one publicly established reason that explains why 2 people who had done nothing to invite this did not survive that night. That gap is not a procedural footnote. In a case this thoroughly documented, the absence of motive is the loudest thing in the room. Zamil Limon was recovered from the Howard Franklin Bridge on April 19, 2026, inside heavy-duty black utility trash bags, bound, in advanced stages of decomposition from days in the open. A medical examiner confirmed multiple sharp force injuries, including a deep stab wound to his lower back that penetrated his liver. He was days from presenting the thesis he had spent 2 years building. The search for Nahida continued for days after Zamil was found. Dive teams worked the waterways around Tampa Bay.
We learned during this that it is our victim, Zamil. We're able to determine that because he's in the early stages of decomposition. So we knew it was him through fingerprints that were obtained through the Department of Homeland Security when he had entered the country. When I talk about gruesome, he had been stabbed several times, which ultimately was the cause of his death. He was bound in front at his hands and at his ankles. His legs up towards his buttocks area was almost completely severed, so he could be bent together and make it easier to place in a trash bag. He was left on the side of the road. As gruesome as this murder was, he was literally left on the side of the highway like a piece of trash.
He was days from presenting the thesis he had spent 2 years building. The search for Nahida continued for days after Zamil was found. Dive teams worked the waterways around Tampa Bay. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office forensic unit was called in. Then, human remains were recovered from the waterways near Interstate 275 and 4th Street North, the St. Petersburg side of the Howard Franklin Bridge. The same general area. The same method prosecutors had already predicted in their filings. That Bristy was disposed of in a similar way to Limon. DNA testing confirmed the remains belonged to Nahida Bristy. Her father made one public statement after the confirmation. He said he just wants to see her face one final time. The families of both Zamil and Nahida issued a joint statement demanding the highest possible punishment for the man charged with their murders. Zamil's aunt went further. She said on the record that Abu Gharbia is an animal and that he should face the death penalty.
Jen, and today we were able to speak to Zamil Limon's brother. He told us that Limon and another roommate had previously filed complaints against the suspect, but that nothing was done. Now the victims' families hope that the suspect gets the harshest punishment he possibly can.
And the highest possible punishment, death penalty.
The families also confirmed that complaints had been made to the off-campus housing company about Abu Gharbia's behavior before April 16th. Those complaints were not acted on. That accountability question is now formally open. What was reported, what was received, and what the housing company's responsibility is for what followed. Then, the case expanded in a direction that moves it beyond Tampa entirely. On April 28, 2026, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier announced that the state is expanding its criminal investigation into OpenAI, the parent company of ChatGPT, to specifically include the killings of Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy. The searches Abu Gharbia allegedly conducted on that platform, the questions about disposing of a body, about firearms, about vehicle inspections at specific locations, are now part of a formal state-level inquiry. The AI flagged his questions as dangerous. It responded with warnings. And none of it stopped what came next. What responsibility does a technology company carry when its system identifies this kind of language, generates a warning, and the person types straight through it, and 2 people end up dead? That question does not have a legal answer yet. Florida is now formally asking it. And it is a question that reaches far beyond this case. Zamil Limon came to Tampa with 2 years of work behind him and a presentation scheduled for the week he died. His research on AI systems tracking environmental loss was the kind of work built for a purpose beyond the researcher. Careful, long range, designed to matter after the person who built it has moved on to the next thing. He never got to move on to the next thing. He never got to stand in front of a room and present what 2 years of his life had produced. Nahida Bristy came with the same discipline, the same forward movement. She called her family on a schedule they could set their expectations by. She showed up. She followed through. She was the kind of person whose absence is immediately recognizable because her presence was that consistent. Both of them deserved to finish what they started. What happened to them did not occur in some distant or dangerous place. It happened in a shared apartment, in a residential building where a housing company had received complaints and done nothing. Down the hall from a roommate who had been described as behaving psychopathically by the brother of one of his victims, before the murders happened. A father in Bangladesh is asking to see his daughter's face one final time. An aunt is on record calling the man charged with her nephew's murder an animal. Two families on the other side of the world are waiting for bodies to come home, for a trial to deliver something that resembles accountability, and for an answer to a question that 23 pages of evidence has not yet produced. Why? That is the one thing this case still owes them. So here is the question I want to leave you with. When a case is this thoroughly documented, purchases, searches, location data, blood evidence, a body on a bridge, but the motive behind all of it has never been confirmed, does that feel like a complete case to you? Does that feel like justice is possible without a why? Drop your answer in the comments. Every single one gets read. Subscribe now so you do not miss the full courtroom breakdown as this trial moves forward. The OpenAI investigation is not finished. The housing company accountability question is not finished. And the answers this case still owes two families in Bangladesh are not finished either. Their names were Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy. Remember them.